Then I guess we're going to go ahead and get started. Today, we're going to need 2 blocks, a blanket, and a strap. And for our set, let me go ahead and mute everybody first. All right, so we're going to start with 2 blocks, a blanket, and a strap. And we're going to start first by facing the back of our space. And I want you to put 1 block to one side, 1 block to the other side, and your strap somewhere near the top, and your blanket off to a side. And then once you've got all that sorted, go ahead and lie down on your back. So Sandy, actually flip around for me, please. 180 degrees. There you go. Fantastic. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to try to find our breath. So I want you to figure out how you want your legs to be, whether you want them long and just sort of flopping out open to the side, whether you want your knees bent and your feet wider than your hips and the knees knocking in. And then you're going to pretend like you're Superman and make little fists and put your hands on your hips like you're Superman and Superwoman. Cool. And then I want you to slide your hands up to the middle of your rib cage. And then just let the elbows rest on the floor as they will. And so we're just going to take a few breath cycles here. You are going to push your hands into the outside edges of your ribs. So Barbara, hands, there we go, onto the sides of the ribs. And as you inhale, you're going to push your hands away. And as you exhale, you're going to press your hands in. And you're just going to take about 4 to 5 breaths like this. Inhaling, widening your rib cage back and wide. And exhaling, narrowing the rib cage towards the midline. And you're just noticing what this feels like. Big, solid, deep breaths in. And you might begin to observe that as we do this, you start to experience a calming of the nervous center or nervous system. You start to notice that the breath deepens and that the mind starts to drop into this moment. And now, with whatever you happen to observe, take 3 more breaths here. And then at the end of your 3rd and final exhalation, just allow the arms to open out to the right and to the left into more of a Shavasana type shape. And just observe what it feels like to breathe now. Can you allow the shoulder blades to slide down the back so the collarbones widen? And we'll just focus on this shape here and now. We're going to focus again this week on our spine, but we're looking at something slightly different. We're looking specifically at the relationship between our ribs and our pelvis. And so we're going to see what's happening here as we go throughout this practice. So if you haven't already, go ahead and extend your legs long. And then let's open our legs out into an X shape, and then open your arms out to match. So arms are now up and overhead, legs are in this giant X shape, and you'll just take a moment to notice how this feels in the breath. And I want you to specifically notice what's happening in your ribs and what's happening in your low back and what's happening in your pelvis. Where do you feel points of contact with the floor? And then check in with your head and see if you have to like lift your head a little bit to tuck your chin just slightly down. So your chin, there you go, Laura, is in line with your sternum. And you'll just take a breath cycle here. Great. Keep your left leg as it is. Draw your right leg over to your left leg. There we go. Now cross your left ankle on top of your right. There we go. Reach both arms a little higher up above your head and now arc them up and over to your left. Grab your left wrist with your right hand. And then see if you can take your focus towards your right armpit or towards the sky. Some of you might wiggle walk your whole rib cage a little bit more to the left if it feels like that gives you more of a side body stretch on your right side. But you'll just take a few breath cycles here. And then again, notice what it feels like to imagine that you were breathing into your hands, pressing into your ribs. Take 2 more breath cycles here. Steve, our legs are straight. Oh, you're doing a different option. Oh, there you go. Okay. And then you just take a few moments to breathe here. The end of your next exhalation, go ahead and uncross your ankles. Let go of your wrist and then open back to your X shape. And then just notice what it feels like to be here in the center, noticing if there's a difference between the right and the left side. And then when you're ready to explore the other side, let's go ahead and sweep our left leg over to our right leg. Cross your right ankle over your left. There we go. Reach your arms up and reach your arms over to the right. And then hold on to your left wrist with your right hand. There we go. And then maybe you look over to your left armpit. And if you want to move more of your arms towards the right, you do, and that can accentuate the curve on the left side. And you just pause and you breathe. And again, you're imagining that you're pressing your hands into your ribs and then pushing your ribs into your imaginary hands. Take 2 more breath cycles here. At the end of your next exhalation, go ahead and uncross the ankle, let go of the wrist, and come back to the X shape. Fantastic. And then again, just take a moment to notice how the breath is moving in the body, how the pelvis is working. From here, draw your right knee into your chest, interlace your hands at the back of your left thigh. Notice what it feels like with your legs still a little bit to the left. If that doesn't feel so great to you, draw your leg directly underneath you so it's in line with your hip socket. And then you'll flex through both feet. Oh, Robin, you were good. So leg is still long on the floor, left leg. And then you just pause here and you breathe. And you just observe and notice what that feels like. Some of you will stay right here. Some of you might begin to open your right knee towards the floor, towards your right armpit. And just notice how that gives you a little bit of a different stretch. And again, check back in. Where is your pelvis connected to the floor? How is the back of your rib cage connected to the floor? Great. Now, from here, we're going to go ahead and draw the leg back to center. If your right leg back to center, draw your left leg directly underneath your left hip socket and open your arms out into a T shape. From here, you're going to shift your pelvis to the right and let your leg come to the left. Use the block on the left side to support your thigh or knee. And so you may need to turn it up to whatever setting works best for you. Knee is still bent, right knee is still bent, and it just rests on the block. Fantastic. Once you've sorted that out, bring your left hand to the top of your left thigh. And then with your right, actually touching it, there you go. From here, I want you to start to push your right thigh away from your right shoulder just a little bit. Look towards the right, and then notice if you want to play with where your right arm is. Maybe you reach it up on a diagonal more. Maybe it's directly out to the side. You're finding where it feels like there is a stretch and maybe even an opening on the back of the body as well as the front of the body. Those of you with your left hand on your right thigh, you might try pressing the top of your thigh away from you just a little bit so you're creating this diagonal stretch between your right hip and your right shoulder. Fantastic. On your next in-breath, gently unwind and come back onto your back, both legs long, and just take a moment to notice what you notice. How's the right side? How's the left side? How are you? Great. And then when you're ready, we'll try the other side. So you might start back in that X shape with your legs. Draw your left knee into your chest. Interlace your hands at the back of your left thigh. And you might just hang out here. Some of you will choose to draw the right leg directly underneath the right hip socket. Some of you will let it stay out to the right. You just choose what works best for you. And then notice what happens if you maybe open the left knee towards the left, towards the floor, still drawing it up towards your armpit as best as you can to feel the stretch across the inner edges of your pelvis, the groins, the pubic bone. And you're just breathing, noticing how that feels. Fantastic. Let's go ahead and inhale and come back through center. Draw your right leg directly underneath you. Open your arms out to the sides, and then allow the left leg to cross over the body to the right and fall onto your block. Adjust the block to whatever setting you need. From there, you'll bring your right hand to the top of your left thigh, and you start to just push the left thigh away from you as you maybe look towards the left hand. And then play with where that left hand is. Is it directly out to the side in a 90-degree angle with the shoulders, or maybe you're reaching up more towards your head? You're finding the spot that feels like you're getting something on the front and the back of the body on that left side. Fantastic. Is that okay, Barbara? Okay. When you're ready, you'll inhale and come back through center. Return back to your X for just a moment. And again, check in with the pelvis and the hips. Has there been any shift in terms of how they're connecting or relating to the floor? Fantastic. Draw your legs directly underneath you, hip distance apart. And then this time, draw your right knee into your chest. Grab your strap and put your strap across the ball of your right foot. Now, once you're here, you're going to pause. Make sure you have an equal amount of strap in each hand. Notice whether or not you want your arms straight or your elbows bent. So if your arms are straight, you're probably holding higher on the strap, closer towards your foot. If the elbows are bent, you're probably holding a little further down. Now, all of us check in with that left leg, the one on the floor. Really actively press down through the heel, flex through the foot, press down into the calf. See if you can inchworm the hamstrings to the floor. And then on the right leg, the one that's in the strap, push up through your heel even more. Now push up through the ball of your foot, push up through the pinky toe mound and the big toe mound, and pull down with the strap. Now imagine that I have an extra set of hands and I'm bringing them to your ribs. See if you can breathe wide into your ribs. So sometimes if we've got the elbows there, you can literally just try to expand your ribs into your elbows. Some of you might find that that's kind of constricting to your intercostal, so you might want to widen your elbows out just a little bit so that your rib cage has the space to move. But you just notice what's working for you. Notice if you're breathing and how it's going. Fantastic. Some of you are going to stay right here. Some of you are going to draw both ends of the strap into your left hand. Hook your right thumb into your right hip crease. Actively push your thigh away from you and then cross the right leg a couple of inches over towards the left. Now, we want to make sure that that left leg is still internally rotated. So you want the toes to still point up to the sky. Notice if the pinky toes started to wing out. And then as you push down on the right thigh, see if you can keep breathing because you probably stopped as we get into your IT band or calves or different parts of your hamstring, depending upon how you're feeling this. And then notice if you're still flexing actively through that right foot. Sometimes we hip, pull off. And so see if you can keep pressing into the strap. Nice work. Next in breath, come back up through center. As you exhale, release the strap, but keep the leg right where it is. And then just take a couple of pointings and flexings of the foot. You might eventually evolve this into ankle circles if that feels better. And then once you're complete with that, go ahead and release the foot to the floor. Let both legs be long for a moment and just notice if you notice anything between your right side and your left side. If you do, great. If you don't, great. It's okay. We're just paying attention. When you're ready, let's draw that left knee into the chest. Draw the strap across the ball of your left foot, and then send the left foot up to the sky. And just like we did before, notice how you want the arms. Do you want the arms straight so they're closer to the foot? Do you want the elbows bent? Make sure you have one end of the strap in each hand, no matter which option you choose, just because it keeps the collarbones a little bit broader. Now, if your right leg is still straight, check in with that leg. Really flex through the foot. Press down through the heel. Press down into the calf. Press down into the backs of the hamstring. And then check in with the left leg, the one that's in the strap. Really reach up through your heel, the back of the leg. Then press into the ball of the foot, specifically big toe, pinky toe mound. And then notice how that impacts how much you can pull with your arms. And then I want you to notice here if you can broaden the collarbones a little bit, if you can relax your face a little bit. And we'll take about 5 breaths here, imagining you've got your hands on your rib cage and you're widening the ribs as you breathe in, and you're narrowing the ribs as you breathe out. And you just pause and you breathe and you notice what you notice. How is the breath? How is the back of the hamstring? Are you still reaching up through that left heel? Yep. Fantastic. Some of you will continue to hang out here. Others of you will draw both ends of the strap into your right hand. Hook your left thumb in your left hip crease. Actively push your left thigh away from you and then cross your left leg a couple of inches over to the right. Now we want to check in with our right leg. That's the long leg. Make sure it's still neutral, so the toes are still pointing up. There we go. And then you'll want to notice what's happening in your left heel. Is it still actively reaching up? Are you still pressing into the ball of the foot, pushing into the strap? Maybe you look over to your left. Maybe you breathe a little bit more and you just notice what you notice. Hello, IT band. Hello, calves. Hello, hamstrings. Very gently, you'll inhale and come back up through center. Remove the strap, but keep the leg. And then again, point and flex your foot a few times. And then when you're ready, you might make those ankle circles. And then gently, we'll release the foot to the floor. Check in and see how you feel between the sides, right side, left side. Do things feel a little bit more even? Do they feel a little bit more grounded? All right, moving on. Bend both knees, plant your feet firmly on the floor. From here, let's just discard the strap entirely in case if it's still touching you. Cross your right ankle over the top of your left thigh for Sukhi Randrasana, figure 4. Flex into that right foot and then draw the configuration of your legs towards your face. Some of you will thread through the full of your legs and grab the back of your left thigh. Some of you will grab the front of your left shin. Wherever you are, I want you to really pay attention to the back of your pelvis. Do you notice if your weight is dipping towards the right, or is it equal between the right and the left hip? And if it's dipping more to the right, try to send more of your weight to the left. From there, I want you to see if you can really flex through that right foot. Yep, draw the toes back to the knee and then press your pinky toe edge of that foot into your left thigh. From here, notice if you've got the capacity, you might press your right elbow into the middle of your right thigh and then check in with your rib cage. Can you keep the shoulder blades wide on the back? And then can you breathe wide into your ribs as you're here? Fantastic. The end of your next exhalation, release your hands, draw the left foot to the floor, then draw the right foot to the floor. When you're ready, go ahead and switch sides. So now the left ankle crosses over the top. You take a moment to really pause, actively flexing through that foot, and then draw the configuration of the legs towards your chest. Reach through the hole, grab the back of the right thigh or the front of the right shin. And then again, notice what's happening in the back of your pelvis. Is your weight tipping to the left? It's typical that that happens because we've got more weight. Let's see if you can shift the weight a little bit more so it's equal between both hips. From there, notice how you would like to intensify this. Maybe you flex that left foot a little bit more so the toes reach back to your knee. Yeah. Maybe some of you will then draw the right thigh closer to you so you can use the left elbow to press the left thigh away. Maybe you notice that you can then draw the shoulder blades down the back and then find more space to breathe in your ribs. Fantastic. The end of your next exhalation, release your hands, draw the right foot to the floor, draw the left foot next to it. Take a moment here to take what are called pelvic nutations. So keeping your butt glued to the floor, you'll rock on your sacrum like you're making small cats and cows, just to feel what that does in the back of the spine. Great. Go ahead and come to neutral, come to stillness. Grab one of your blocks and slide it in between your thigh bones on the first or the second setting. Bring your hands alongside your hips. Great. From here, inhale, squeeze the block, push down into the feet, lift the hips, lift the arms. Arms come and touch the floor behind you. And then as you exhale, keep the arms above you and slowly roll your spine down bone by bone by bone. When your pelvis touches, you'll inhale, lift the hips once again. And this time, as you exhale, hands and hips return back to that starting position. That counts as one set. We'll do 3 more on your own. So inhale, press through the feet, lift the hips, lift the arms up and over your head. At the top of your inhalation, keep your arms on the floor and slowly roll your spine down, vertebra by vertebra. When your pelvis hits, you'll inhale, push through the feet, squeeze the block, lift the hips. And then as you exhale, lower the hands and lower the hips back to that starting position. 2 more sets on your own, following your own breath. And you just notice what you notice here. What is the relationship between the movement of your vertebra and how that helps your ribs and your hips come back into a better alignment? So I've been thinking about this recently, just because we do so much sitting that it can cause a sense of dysregulation between the relationship between our hips and our spine, or rather our hips and our ribs. So we're trying to use this movement in particular, the articulation of the vertebra, to help us remind the body that we can come back into more of a collaborative relationship with one another. Okay, this should be our last set. Next time your hands are alongside your hips, you'll just pause there. We'll wait for everyone to catch up. Nice work. From this neutral position, let's go ahead and push down through the feet, push down through the arms. When your hips are high, I want you to walk your shoulder blades underneath you. You might choose to grab the outside edges of your mat. You might choose to interlace your hands. You might choose to robot your elbows. But what we're focusing on here is how can you push the back of the arm bone, the upper humerus, into the floor? How can you push the back of the head into the floor? Can you draw your chin slightly towards your sternum as you lift your sternum towards your chin? And then what about pressing into your big toe mounds to hug that block a little bit more, allowing the inner thighs to roll down and lifting your outer hips up? And you've got 3 more breath cycles here. And you just notice what you notice. How's the body? How's the breath? And how are you? At the end of this next exhalation, gently unclasp the hands, untuck your shoulders, bring your pelvis back down to the floor, and take a moment to pause and take a moment to breathe. And see if you can unfurl the spine so that you return to your natural curves of the spine. From here, let's go ahead and remove the block. Draw your knees into your chest. And then slip your hands through the inside edges of your thighs, grab the outer edges of your feet, and open for a few breaths in Ananda Balasana, Happy Baby. And when we're here today, I want you to really pay attention how much of your pelvis is making contact with the floor. Specifically, let's think about the top of your pelvis. So the top of the sacrum down towards the tailbone. How much of that can you how much of that can you give contact to the floor or allow contact with the floor? How does that change the sensation across the inner thighs, the adductors? Great. You've got 2 more breath cycles here. At the end of your next exhalation, gently hug the knees into your chest. Okay. Holding on to the top of your shins, I want you to tuck your chin to your chest and curl your forehead to your knees. Make the tiniest ball you could have possibly make here. Really, really, really rounding in. Yeah, okay. Now, bring your hands to the backs of your thighs, keeping the chest as it is. Release your heels a little bit up towards the sky so it gives you some space, just a little, maybe 3 inches or less. And you're going to start to rock and roll, ideally keeping the same relationship between your hips and your heels, your head and your knees as you do this. And you've got about 10. Oh, look at you guys go. That's fun. Keep it going, keep it going. And then once you have done about 10, you're going to come up and see if you can balance on your sacrum. So in order to make that happen, you have to keep rounding in the abdomen, holding on to the back of the legs, pausing there for a brief moment. Some of you might choose to reach one hand forward. Some of you might choose to reach the other hand forward. Some of you might choose to lift your feet so they're in line with your knees. Some of you might choose to straighten your legs all the way. But you've got about 3 breath cycles here in this Navasana position. And you're just pausing and you're breathing and you're pausing and you're breathing. Fantastic. At the end of this next exhalation, go ahead and sit up, cross at the ankles, and just take a moment to sit there in the Sukhasana position, noticing again, how is your rib cage stacked over your hips? Like, what is the relationship there? Great. When you're ready, turn around and we're going to make our way to hands and knees. So at this point, you might choose to put your blanket in the middle of your space. And then our blocks, we're probably going to move up to the top of our space. So you choose what works best for you. All right. Fantastic. Once you find yourself on hands and knees, there we go. We're going to find our sad California cows, or not California cows first. So let your belly drop, let your head drop, press your arms as straight as you possibly can. And today, again, because we're focusing on the relationship between your hips and your ribs, I want you to notice what this shape feels like to you. It probably feels completely counter opposite of what we do every day. But as I learned yesterday from my massage therapist, our pelvis is actually doing this shape quite often when we're seating at a computer, because even though we are seated, sometimes we are shifting our pelvis forward. So it's causing our psoas to contract. Um, but the part that's different here is our rib cage isn't also doing this. When we're sitting like this, often it's pulling back and getting really tight. So we're just going to spend a few breath cycles here. And then if you want to entertain yourself, you can turn the eyes of your elbows forwards and back and just feel what that does to the shoulder joint. But really, we're focusing on what this is doing for your spine. So you just keep the belly dropping, keep your heart dropping. And if you want to move the elbows around, by all means, move your elbows around. Fantastic. Let's go ahead and come to stillness. If you're moving your elbows, start to scoop your organs away from the floor. Drop your head even further. Drop your tail now and scoop all the organs of your body into your back body. Press the floor away as much as you can so you feel those shoulder blades widen. And again, scoop more of your organs into your back body. Great. Now inhale, come forward, normal cow shape. And exhale, scoop the organs again, cat shape. You've got 4 of these. And in our cats and cows, we're really focusing on scooping the organs. Scoop, scoop, scoop the organs. Nice work. On your next in-breath, let's go ahead and find a neutral spine. Now here, when you find neutral, let's see if we can draw our front two hip bones together just a little bit. Let's see if we can now draw our belly button forward, and then see if you can lift your sternum forward. Keep that, draw all the weight into your right hand, and start to make wrist circles with your left hand, opening your left arm out to the left. Okay, we're focusing on the rib-hip connection. When you're ready, go ahead and draw that left hand back down, and then we'll try that on the other side. So first check in, make sure your pelvis, you're drawing the front two hip bones together. You're drawing your pubic bone forward to your sternum forward to your crown, root into your left hand, and then start to make wrist circles with your right hand, opening it out in line with your right shoulder, perhaps. Great. All right. Let's go ahead and lower that hand down. Walk both knees, ankles, and shins together. Curl all 10 toes under and go ahead and sit yourself back for a toe squat. So we'll just pause here for a few breaths and just notice what you notice. How does it feel to stack your shoulders over your hips? How does your butt feel in relationship? And we're just going to breathe. Okay, let's go ahead and come forward, hands and knees. Separate your feet wider, or rather your knees as wide as your hips, tops of the feet onto the floor. Take your right foot over to your left foot. Lift your left foot up, bring the top of your left foot into the arch of your right foot, and then start to walk yourself back. Your blocks are at the top of your space, so if you already know you want to walk them back with you, you walk them back with you. Great. And today I want you to play with how you're pressing your left foot into your right arch. So that might mean that you lift the left foot and inchworm it down your right foot. It might mean you just drag it. It might mean you keep shifting how you're playing with it, but you're really trying to use your navicular bone to work out what you're experiencing in the sole of your right foot. Awesome. Okay, let's go ahead and come forward, hands and knees. Knees as wide as your hips. This time take your left foot over to the right foot, lift the right foot, bring the top of the right foot into the sole of the left foot. Walk the blocks back with you if you need them or want them. And then again, check in on this side. Do you just want to press and hold? Do you want to fidget around a little bit, using the right foot to work out any of the tissue in the sole of your left foot? You're just pausing and you're breathing and you're noticing how this is going for you. Okay, let's go ahead and inhale, come forward, hands and knees. Walk both knees and ankles together again. Curl all 10 toes under, and we'll sit back for our toe squat round 2. This time, let's go ahead and reach our right arm up and overhead, bend our right elbow, grab the right elbow with your left hand. Press the right elbow to the right as you draw it to the left. And you just notice what's the relationship now between your ribs and your hips. Probably the ribs might have popped forward a little bit. So see if you can still draw the bottoms of the ribs back, but lift the top of the sternum up. Nice. Okay, you might be done with that, and I'm ready to move on. So we're going to switch sides. Reach your left arm up, bend your left elbow, grab your left elbow with your right hand. And again, push the left elbow to the left, draw it into the right. Check in with your ribs on this side. Do you notice that if there's any flaring out to the left, can you simply lift, almost like you're trying to pull the whole rib cage straight up, and then draw the bottoms of the ribs back slightly as you lift the top of the sternum high? Yeah, all right. Gently, go ahead and release the arms, interlace the hands at the low back, draw the shoulders up towards the ears, shoulder blades down to get down on the back, and last 3 breath cycles here. And again, notice what's happening with the ribs. Can we keep the sternum lifting up so the heads of the arm bones stay open? And then can we keep the ribs roughly stacked over the hips in a neutral position? Great. Let's go ahead and come forward, hands and knees. Extend the tops of the feet to your floor, pitter patter as much as you want, having a little temper tantrum if you'd like. Conversely, shift your weight back to lift one end or both knees up and away from the floor. And then when you're ready to move on, you'll come forward, hands and knees. Okay, the last little thing. Well, we've got two more actually. Let's go ahead and reach our left hand out to the left. And then you're going to thread your left arm underneath you towards the right. Reposition the right hand wherever you need it, and then press the back of your left hand, press the right palm down into the floor. And we're going to just take a few breath cycles, breathing into our rib cage, breathing into the backs of the shoulders, finding the length that you might be experiencing from your hip to your armpit on the right side. Fantastic. On your next inhalation, let's come back through center, hands and knees. And then we'll try the other side. So pressing into the left hand, right arm extend out to the right, and then thread the hand underneath you, bringing the right ear to the mat, repositioning the left hand. Press the back of your right hand into the mat, press the left palm down, and then notice where you feel this on this side. Can you still breathe wide into the ribs? Do you feel more of a stretch happening on the back of the shoulder blade near the right shoulder, or rather scapula? And you just pause and you breathe. On your next in-breath, come back to hands and knees. From here, let's walk your right foot back, curl the toes under. Hug your front two hip bones together, squeeze all the muscles around your right leg, and then float your right leg parallel to the floor. Now we're going to take a moment to pause here. Really see if you can lift your inner right thigh a little bit higher so your right outer hip can spiral down. Now press back through your right heel like you did when we were reaching through the strap, and press through the ball of the foot too. Okay, now see if you can reach your sternum forward a smidge. Yes, keep that. Now walk your left hand forward and maybe lift the left hand as high as your head, palm faces in. And you've got about 3 breath cycles here. Notice what's happening in the belly. Can you keep scooping the abdomen in and up? Can you keep the ribs and the hips in a nice relationship with one another? Next exhale, lower the left hand down, lower the right knee down. Let's go ahead and try the other side. Extend your left foot back, curl the toes under. Press down into the floor with the hands and that right shin. Draw your front two hip bones together. Squeeze the muscles around the left leg, and then lift your left leg parallel-ish to the floor. Take a moment to lift through that inner left thigh even more, like you're pressing through your left big toe mound. Drop the outer left hip down like your pinky toe is turning more to the floor. From there, you might stay there, or you might start to lift your sternum forward a smidge and then reach your right hand forward. Nice. And you breathe for 3. You breathe for 2. You breathe for 1. Lower the right hand, lower the left knee. Take a cat and a cow and just observe and notice what that feels like. Let's come back to a neutral position, hands and knees. 1 more bird dog each set. You do it at your own pace, but you've got 5 breaths. So you just notice what happens as you come into this. Can you take your time? Can you notice how the breathing changes when the ribs and the pelvis are properly aligned? When they're in their neutral position, there's less metastatic load, as Judith Hanson-Lassiter would call it. And it just makes it easier for us to breathe. When they're not in their optimal relationship, it's a little bit harder. After you've taken your 5 breaths, you lower the hand and knee and you try the opposite side. Nice work, guys. Yeah, and you just pause and you breathe. 5 complete breath cycles. Yeah, nice work. Let's make this our last breath cycle. Lower the hand, lower the knee, curl both sets of toes under and press yourself back to a downward facing dog. Now, this is your first down dog, but we've done quite a bit for your hamstrings. We've opened up the armpits And we have spent some time trying to find a better relationship between your ribs and your hips. So just notice how your down dog feels. Can you push your hands down and forward? Can you lift your hips a little higher and roll your inner thighs back? That looks very nice, Robin. All right, next in breath. Let's go ahead and inhale, come forward into plank, rolling from your tailbone all the way into planky poo. Yay. Fantastic. Okay, now here in plank, I want you to notice what's the relationship between your hips and your ribs. How can you make this actually one long line, crown of the head through your feet? The ribs and the hips are the key point here, and you'll notice that that impacts how the abdominal organs have to pull in. Next in breath, let's go ahead and shift our weight forward. And then exhale, lower all the way down. Ribs and hips touch at the same time. Great. From your belly, cactus your arms out to the right and to the left. Go ahead and look to your left hand first. Slide your left elbow an inch or two to the left. Claw the mat with your left hand. Push your left fingertips down. Push your left elbow down and then look to your right. Step your right hand underneath your right shoulder and then start to push through the right hand and roll to the left. Now, once you're here, I want you to pay attention. Some of you will keep your right leg straight. Some of you will bend the right leg. That's the top leg, and maybe put the foot on the floor behind you. We want to keep a 90-degree angle happening in that right elbow. So Barbara, come out for me. Come back to your belly. Okay, keep the 90-degree angle. So you might have to walk your hand just a few inches away from your head, just a little bit. There you go, and then go back in. And you just take a few breaths. Maybe you lift your head a few inches from the floor. Maybe you draw the head back. Just pay attention to where you're finding a stretch across the front of your chest on the left side. When you're ready, gently come back onto your stomach. And we'll try that on the other side. So cactus the elbows, look to the right, walk your right elbow and hand to the right just a couple of inches. Now claw the mat with your right fingertips, pushing the whole fingertips down, push your right elbow into the floor. Whole right elbow into the floor, Laura. There you go. Keep that. Now look to the left, step your left hand in next to you, so it's underneath the left shoulder. And then you'll start to roll to the right. Now with our right elbow bent, we can't get very far. Yeah. And then you pause. Do you want that left leg, top leg straight? Do you want the left leg, top leg bent? What does it feel like to do with your head? Do you want to lift the head a couple of inches, millimeters from the floor? Do you want to lean the head back a little bit? You just pay attention to where you're feeling a sensation across your armpit, chest region, pec major on that right side. Pause and breathe. Nice. Very gently, you'll roll back and come on to your bellies. When you're on your abdomen, sweep both arms alongside your hips. Okay, so we're going to do opposite arm and opposite leg lifts. So when you inhale, you'll lift your right leg and your left arm. Your left arm will sweep forward and in front of you. There we go. And then you exhale, lower, and sweep the arm back. And you've got about 10 of these. So inhale, opposite arm and opposite leg. And exhale, swish back. And those of you that are doing this, you might find that you want to actually lift the same arm as leg. It doesn't sweep forward, mind you, but it's off the floor. It just puts a little bit more load in your back body. You choose if you wish to do that or not. Yep. And notice if you're breathing. So long, deep inhale to lift limbs. Full exhale to lower limbs. Full deep inhale to lift limbs. Full exhale to lower. And Robin, lift your head as you do it too. There we go. Yep. And then after you've done your 10, you will have both hands alongside your hips, and we'll wait for everyone else to catch up. Nice work. Okay. Now with both hands back alongside our hips, let's go ahead and interlace our hands at the webbing. Draw the shoulders up towards your ears and draw the shoulder blades onto your back. Pause. Separate your feet about hip distance apart and press down into your big toenails and your pinky toenails. Now I want you to find a lot of energy into your legs as you push the feet down, and then see if you can draw the shoulder blades up to your ears again. Draw the shoulder blades onto the back and start to reach your sternum forward. Really root your pelvis down as you reach your chest forward and your head up and your arms back. Try bringing a slight bend into your elbows, and notice that that will let you lift the upper chest just a smidge. Yeah. From there, you might reach through the legs so much that they decide to join the party and lift up and away from the floor. And then you pause and you breathe, check in with your neck. Back of neck is as long as front of neck. Yep. The end of your next exhalation, gently release and lower all the way down. That looks fun, Sandy. Okay, let's go ahead and bring our hands alongside our ribs. Curl both sets of toes under. Now, I want you to pay attention. So we've been focusing on the ribs and the hips. Can you scoop your belly away from the floor just an inch, like I had a little Matchbox car that I wanted to drive underneath you? Keep that relationship, or actually, scratch that, lower down. I told you the wrong body part. Scoop your belly away from the floor like I'm running a Matchbox car underneath you. Haha, there we go. Okay, press your hands down. Now draw the shoulders up towards the ears and draw the shoulder blades on the back. Keep or lift your ears in line with the tops of your shoulders. Keep scooping your belly button away from the floor like the Matchbox car is there. Now, with your hands, your knees, and your feet, push up to hands and knees. Hands, knees, and feet. Hands, knees, and feet. Yeah. Then go back to downward facing dog. And then just check in and notice how your down dog feels now. Can you send your inner thighs even further back and apart? Can you find the energy from your shoulders pushing down into your hands, hands pushing down into the floor, ears dropping in alignment with your arms? Next, inhale, sweep your right leg up and back. As you exhale, step the right foot between your hands. Bring your hands to your blocks. Now, from here, let's go ahead and push down into our front foot, push down into our back foot. Lift your inner left thigh a lot. So really feel like, there you go, Barbara. Lift that inner left thigh. Now push from your right sit bone down into your right heel. Keep that. Draw your right hand to the outside edge of your right thigh. Draw the hand back a little bit, Jenny. There we go. Now I want you to push your right hand into your right thigh into your right hand. Start to scoop your right low belly and rotate your rib cage towards the right. Fantastic. Some of you will stay here. Some of you will reach that right arm up towards the sky. But the focus here is really lifting through the back inner left thigh and then finding the relationship between your hips and your ribs here. So they're still in one line as you're rotating towards the right. Nice. Next in-breath, gently unwind, bring the hands to the floor or the blocks. Lower your back knee to a blanket or the mat, whatever option works best for you. So if you need to pad the back knee, by all means do that. And then start to walk your spine up to vertical. Hands will come into the center of your right thigh. Cool. Some of you will stay right here and you'll just see if you can lift your front two hip bones up, stack your shoulders over your hips. Some of you will bend your back knee, so that's the left knee. Use your left hand to grab the outside edge of your left foot. Great, now pause. We're gonna push down into our right foot a lot. So from the sit bone pushes down. And then you're going to draw your left heel to your left pelvis, but draw the top of your left thigh straight back towards your foot. That should ideally bring the stretch to the belly of your left thigh. And then check in with your ribs and your hips. Are your ribs popping super far forward in order to hold on to this, or are you able to pull the ribs into alignment with the hips? Yeah, all right. Very mindfully release your back leg. Bring your hands back down to your floor or your blocks. Straighten your back leg long, and then you're going to step your back foot in a couple of inches. From here, go ahead and straighten your front leg long too. You can put the sole of the foot down or keep the sole of the back foot lifted, whatever feels best to you for this pyramid or modified pyramid shape. With your hands on your blocks, start to lift the sole of your right foot up in alignment with your right knee. Some of you will stay right here, happy as little clams. You'll externally rotate that back leg. You'll root down through the back thigh as best as you can. Some of you will lift your spine parallel-ish to the floor and then start to walk your hands. So maybe your left hand block thing comes to the outside edge of your right foot. You might externally rotate that right leg so you're spinning a little bit towards the pinky toe edge side of your right foot. And you decide if you're going to keep breathing. Well, I hope you keep breathing, but you're going to decide if you want to stay there or if you want to come back to the earlier position. Nice work. If you went to the right, go ahead and recenter your spine over your front leg, bend your front knee, plant your palms on the mat, and make your way back to downward facing dog. And then just breathe and notice what you notice between the sides, right side and left side. Okay, let's try the other side. Inhale, sweep your left leg up and back. As you exhale, step your foot between your hands. Great. Bring your hands to your blocks. Awesome sauce. And then pause here. The first thing we're going to do is lift that back thigh quite a bit. So really lift through that inner right thigh. It will lift your tuchus up just a little bit. Now drive your left heel down into your right sit bone, or right foot rather, so you feel that stability. Bring the left hand to the outside edge of your left thigh. If you need to walk the right hand in a little bit, you walk the right hand in a little bit. From here, let's push the right thigh out into the left thigh out into the left hand into the left thigh. Pull the left low belly in and rotate your ribs towards the left. Some of you will stay there. Some of you might reach your left arm up. But we're really focusing on lifting that inner right thigh, finding one line from your head through your shoulders, through your hips, through that back right foot. Barbara, draw your outer left hip back just a little bit so your heart comes, yep, yeah. And then there you go. When you're ready, gently unwind. Lower your back knee to the blanket or the floor. Start to walk your hands up your front thigh. And then you'll pause there. You might just stay here, pressing into your front foot, pushing into your back knee, hugging those points together. Or you might choose to bend your right knee, draw your right foot to your pelvis, hold on to it with your right hand. Thank you for that, Sandy. And then if you're holding on to that, notice if you can re-steer your right shoulder forward, your left shoulder back, root down into your left foot. Draw the top of your right thigh back a little bit as you draw the right heel towards your pelvis. Nice. When you're ready, gently release your back foot. Bring your hands to the floor or the blocks. Curl the back toes under, straighten the back leg long, and then step the back foot in a couple of inches. From there, straighten your front leg long, and then choose. Is the back heel lifted, or did you root it for pyramid one or pyramid pose? Check in. Then you might start to peel the sole of your left foot up, pulling the left toes up towards your left knee. Some of you will stay here. Some of you will reach your spine parallel to the floor and then start to crawl your hands to the outside edge of your left foot. If you do that, you start to spin on your left heel, so your left pinky toes reach towards the floor as you keep pulling the toes up towards your knee. Nice work. Laura, pull more of your foot away from the floor. Yeah. Very gently come back through center. Bend the front knee, plant the palms, step yourself back to downward facing dog. Great. All right, from here, let's go ahead and walk to the top of our space. So ironically, all of this was made to get to these next two shapes. Here's shape number one. I want you to notice what it feels like to be in your forward fold. How can you balance the weight on your feet? Do you feel the ability to shift your pelvis forward over the tops of your hip bones so that the head can become heavier? The spine can become longer. Yeah, that looks very nice. Now, keeping your head heavy, I want you to literally take at least 60 to 90 seconds to roll up your spine. So some of you will bend your knees, some of you will keep your legs straight. It's harder with your legs straight, just as a heads up, but you're going to curl from your tailbone all the way down, and you've got 60 seconds. That's a long time. So you're going to take your time, and you're going to feel all the things that happen in your back chain of body. Keep your head heavy, Robin. As you roll up the spine, this is thanks to Susan Klein. She calls this rolling up the spine. Generally, you take about 2 minutes to roll all the way up the spine, and you're just spending the time. You notice that the weight shifts in the feet differently. The spine grabs differently. Yeah, you have to breathe differently. We're about halfway there. If you're already standing, no worries. You just notice how the back of the body really has to work. And then once you finally get up, notice how you can allow the shoulders, the ribs to stack directly over the hips to stack over the knees to stack over the feet. Relax your arms, Barbara. Or rather, relax your hands. So we don't have to, there we go. Yeah, it's hard. And when you're all the way up, just allow the shoulder blades to drop down. Nice work there, Sandy. Then you just pause and you breathe. Pause and you breathe. Nice, Barbara. Pause and you breathe. And I'd like you to close your eyes and just observe. How does it feel now? Where are your hips and your ribs? Where's your head? Fantastic. All right, let's move on. Inhale, circle sweep your arms up and overhead. As you exhale, fold forward at your hips. Uttanasana, forward fold. Great. From here, inhale, halfway lift, Ardha Uttanasana. As you exhale, bend your knees, plant your palms, step back, plank pose. Lower through chaturanga and then back bend of your choice, either up dog or cobra, but take 3 breaths in whichever one you pick. 3 breaths, 3 breaths, 3 breaths. And then you'll lower all the way back down to the floor. Last active thing we're going to do. So again, hands underneath your shoulders, curl all 10 toes under. Scoop your belly away from the floor like there's that little matchbox underneath you, and you're going to push up to hands and knees. From here, lower your forearms down to the mat, palms touch. Walk your elbows slightly inside of your shoulders and then catch your skin and roll out on the arms. Curl the toes under, curl the spine under, and start to lift yourself up for dolphin pose. Really rounding through the spine. And then you just pause. That's very nice, Roberta. You just pause and you breathe. Keep pushing down through the elbows. And when you're done, you just come down. You'll rest in child's pose and you'll breathe. Nice work, Erica. Good job, Jenny. Good job, Laura. Nice work there, Steve. When you're ready, you just come down. I feel like you could stay there all day, you two. Just like up there. Okay, when you're ready, you'll slowly roll up to sit. And then you'll turn around and lie down on your backs. When you find yourself on your back, so head towards the top of your space. Walk your knees, or rather your feet outside of your hips. Let your knees knock in. If your body gets cold, this would be a great time to cover up before you lay down. And then once you are settled, we're going to take constructive rest. So you'll wrap your arms around your torso. Let the feet be wide. And you're going to take 10 slow, deep breaths, returning to what we started with. So you're really trying to focus on the ribs expanding right to left as you breathe in and narrowing as you breathe out. Really letting the whole weight of the elbows rest into the chest. So you're not having to hold the arms at all. They're just seated or resting on you. And at this point, our respiratory system, well, not our respiratory system, but our breathing rate should have slowed down. So you might find that these 10 breaths, or maybe the longest 10 breaths you've taken today. But after you've taken your 10 breaths, you'll switch whichever arm is on top. And you'll take another 10 breaths. And I want you to just pay attention. How do the ribs, the hips feel now? What is the relationship with your head? Do you still have all of the natural curves of the spine? So naturally, we have a little bit of lordosis in the low back. So the low back should come away from the floor just a smidge, with a bit of kyphosis in the thoracic spine. So that part just rests more into the floor. And then we have a bit of lordosis again in the cervical spine. So it should be a little bit away. And you're just letting your body fall into the supportive gravity. Now, after you've taken these last 10 breaths, the final shape we're going to do today is Shavasana. So you'll go ahead and open yourself out. And because we spent the initial part really focusing on widening the ribs, when you start to make your way to Shavasana, I do encourage you to have your arms a bit wider so that the shoulder blades slide down the back. Notice if you need to fidget so the legs open more into that X shape that we started with. And then something I recently learned from Judith Hanson Lassiter is I want you to pay attention to how your arms are. Does it feel okay to have the palm of the hand facing up? Or do you want to rest a little bit more on the pinky side of your arm? Does that feel better in the shoulder joint? Does that allow a deeper breath in the rib cage? Because the thing that she said that I thought was funny, she's like, if you've got ribs, you've got lungs underneath it. So we want to create space in all of our intercostal muscles. And having the arms a little bit wider does that. And then paying attention to where the palms are facing aids with that, because then the head of the arm bone is like coming too far forward. All right, enough of that. So now that we're in our final shape, I want you to take the biggest breath in you've taken all day, wide into the ribs, and then the biggest exhale out. And you'll do that two more times, just allowing yourself the gift of breath. And at the end of your next exhalation, just allow yourself to fall into your natural involuntary rhythm. And as best as you can, allow your awareness to just stay in this moment on the breath coming into the body and the breath going out of the body. I'll leave you here with you for a few more moments, and I'll let you know when it's time to come out. Return your awareness to your breath. As you come back to your breath, just take a moment to check in. If there's any part of you longing to linger in this shape, by all means, please stay here. When you are ready to move on, allow gentle movement to enter into your fingers and your toes. That movement might gradually turn into a stretch, a yawn, or a wiggle. Those in movement, begin to make your way to one of your sides. Pause for a couple of breaths there. And then begin to roll your chest towards the floor to use your hands to press up to sit. When you are vertical, I do encourage you to sit on something, whether it's a block or a blanket. Take the opportunity to move any flesh from underneath your sit bones. And then to end, we'll plant a hand on the heart and a hand on the abdomen. Keep the gaze soft or the eyes closed. So the importance of having our rib cage and our pelvis aligned is that it allows us to make intuitive, powerful choices, to be guided in a way where everything that we do is coming from a sense of integration, a sense of integrity. And so we can allow one to lead more than the other. It will deplete us over time or make our efforts ineffectual. So as you're going off into the rest of your life, I would like you to consider where in your life a little bit of integration could help you better tackle whatever things you're currently facing, where maybe part of you needs to step back so another part of you can come forward, so that all of you can be served and met, just as you try to serve and meet others. We'll go ahead and complete our practice with a collective breath, followed by a collective Om. Guide your hands to heart center. Press the palms into each other. Receive the weight of your thumbs into your sternum and lift your sternum towards your thumbs. Gently exhale all the breath from your mouth. Take a big breath in. Big breath out. Inhale for Om. Join if you'd like. Om. Draw your thumbs to your third eye. May our thoughts be clear. Draw your thumbs to your lips. May our words be kind. And draw your thumbs to your heart center. May our hearts be open. The light, the breath, the sense of alignment within me honors and salutes the light, the breath, the sense of alignment within each of you. Namaste.